Hey, remember the Snoop Dogg game? No, the other Snoop Dogg game. No, the other Snoop Dogg game. Yes, that's the one. Way of the Dog. I've never heard anybody talk about this game. I feel like everybody's forgotten about it, or maybe they never knew about it, never played it. In fact, most of the big reviewing sites never even bothered to review the game back in the day. And it's sitting at a Metacritic score of 41. Based on 12 critic reviews. The user score is sitting at a 3.0 based on 26 ratings. This game is just bad, that's all, just bad. It's just a random fighting game full of quick time events. That's the thing, it's not a fighting game. This is actually a rhythm game. Came out back in 2013 for the Xbox 360, PS3, and mobile. Today it seems to only be available on the Xbox store. You can get it on 360, Xbox One, or Xbox Series consoles for about $10. And yeah, these reviews would lead you to believe that it's just a terrible game. But hey, I like rhythm games, I like Snoop Dogg, so there must be something in here for me, right? Well, actually, yeah, I didn't think this was a bad game at all. You know, you have to go in with realistic expectations. This is a 10-year-old Xbox Live Arcade game. It's not perfect, it feels like a budget game. But if you like rhythm games, and if you like Snoop Dogg, put 2 and 2 together and you're gonna have a good time. So in the game, you actually don't play as Snoop, you play as his nephew, supposedly, AJ, or America Jones. He is sort of a competitive fighter, and one day his wife is sadly murdered. So he goes on sort of a quest for revenge against the people responsible for her death, taking down one bad guy at a time. And Snoop Dogg plays as your mentor of sorts, your guru, your sensei. He trains you in martial arts, and he trains you in life also, gives you kind of life advice. The story is told from these semi-animated cutscenes, very cartoony, everything's voice acted. Snoop, of course, plays himself. And then the gameplay is your standard rhythm game. It looks a little bit like Elite Beat Agents or something, only playing on Xbox. There's no touchscreen controls, so it's a little tricky. You're just pressing buttons to the right time, to the beat, and it can be a little tricky at times. It gets harder toward the end. You do have multiple difficulty settings. I couldn't figure out why I was missing so many beats at first. I was like, oh, is this what's wrong with the game? No, it was just what was wrong with me, because I didn't do the tutorial and I missed some of the prompts and some of the dynamics of the gameplay. So each level has you pressing buttons on screen to the beat of a Snoop Dogg song. So they didn't completely, go full budget here and not have any licensed music. No, you're actually listening to actual Snoop Dogg songs, a lot of classic hits. Maybe not enough. I think there were only something like 8 songs in this game, and there are many more levels than that. I think there's like 18 levels, so you're going to be playing through the same songs over and over again, but in different scenarios with different prompts and things, and it gets harder as you go. Each level has you battling somebody else, and it looks like a fighting game in the background, but it's not a fighting game at all. Your character is just duking it out against a bad guy while you're playing this rhythm game. And the better you do with your rhythm game, the more damage you do to your opponent. The more notes you miss, the more damage you take. And between each section of the song, there is a quick time event where you are just racing against your opponent to press the correct combination of buttons on screen. If you do it first, then you get an extra hit against your opponent. If you're too slow, then they'll hit you. I think it's actually pretty darn fun, Is this the best game out there? Is it the most fully featured? No. Does it have a story that totally makes sense? No. Does that look like Snoop Dogg? Heck no. But I still had a good time with it, a really good time with it. I was very surprised myself. I don't think this game deserves any of the hate that it gets. You can take that 41 Metacritic score and turn it into a 420, please. I feel like most of the hate came from people thinking this was a fighting game when it's really not that. It's not a fighting game. Other people complained about the censorship. Yes, the music is somewhat censored. People wanted a mature rated game, but the publisher wanted a T-rated game. It's that simple, reach more people. So yeah, the music is censored. I feel like they went as far as they could with certain things. It's still plenty violent. There's still plenty of adult language. But yeah, there is some censorship. And what else are people complaining about here, man? It's also a short game. You can play through the story in like an hour and a half or less. But I do think there's plenty of replayability here. As I said earlier, there are multiple difficulty modes, so finish it on normal mode, cool. Go back and play it on hard mode. See if you can handle the challenge. There's also a 2-player versus mode. You can battle it out against a friend. And as crazy as the story gets toward the end, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it is insane at the end. There's unbelievable stuff that happens, which I also enjoyed. I have to say I enjoyed it. It was unexpected. They threw a curveball in there. Definitely goes for the sort of supernatural, mystical, and it works. I like the ending a lot. Yeah, it does feel like a budget game. The graphics are not spectacular. The gameplay is pretty good. Sometimes I do feel like the button mapping or just the way it's presented can throw you off a little bit sometimes, especially you don't have a lot of time to hear the beat before you just jump into the button presses. So it's like it'll throw you off in the beginning as you're trying to get the rhythm of the song. Otherwise, I just feel like it's a little bit unpredictable because it's not always right on the beats. Sometimes it's more synced to the vocals, or it just depends. And then there can be so much going on screen sometimes where it's not like you have a bar going in one direction. Could be going this way and then that way and then any which way, and it can throw you off sometimes. So you really gotta use your eyes more than your ears, which I feel like it should be the other way around sometimes for a rhythm game, but that might be a stupid point because you always gotta look at what keys you're supposed to be pressing and whatnot. It gets a little hectic, but I do feel like it's a pretty creative game. It's a creative mashup of different things. You know, yes, rhythm with sort of a fighting game aesthetic and theme to it. A crazy story. You got 2 players. And yeah, this is all about Snoop Dogg and his music. Even though you're playing as this other character, AJ, it's really for fans of Snoop Dogg. And it's for fans of rhythm games in general. So if you like rhythm games, you like Snoop, or you like hip hop, or you just like something quirky and different, something underrated, something nobody else is talking about, check it out, man. Way of the Dog. Get it on Xbox while you can, because that's the last storefront it's still purchasable on. Yeah, I think it's really underrated. I think people have been pretty unfair with their judgment here, and a lot of people just look past it altogether. So yeah, looking at these user reviews, man, it's like people had nothing to say about it. Did I even need to play this to see how bad it is? Try to defend it. I dare you. I triple Snoop Dogg dare you. I'm defending it right now. Wow, just wow, this is terrible. Why was this allowed on the marketplace? Why? Who published this? There's nothing constructive. There's nothing descriptive. What's wrong with you people? Not enough 420 Kush blazing, 420 Blaze Lord wishes for this to be relevant. What? Whose bright idea was it to make a video game about Snoop Dogg? This is literally the worst game I've played in recent years, and I only played the demo because I knew from the start that this game was going to be awful. That might seem unfair, but just look at the other reviews and ratings, or play the game for yourself. Yeah, play the game for yourself. I mean, they didn't even tell you why this was bad. They're just saying it's bad. Way of the Dog is the laziest branded game of the year. These are professional reviews now. Way of the Dog is a laziest branded game of the year. You can't even speak right. You can't even type correctly. It has some nice ideas, but the execution isn't good at all. Apart from its many issues, it fails to entertain, which is the worst thing that can happen to any game. It entertained me. Snoop has been involved in some lame, non-musical ventures over the years, but Way of the Dog may be a new low. Lame? You're telling me that Def Jam Fight for New York is lame? You're telling me that True Crime is lame? How many games has Snoop been in? I feel like he's been in a lot more than that, but those are the 2 that are coming to my mind right now. A missed opportunity, an original title that suffers from numerous flaws that make the gaming experience flawed. Bro, who's writing for these outlets? Somebody hire me, please. I can do better than this. Way of the Dog is not up to the chosen testimonial, poor in gameplay mechanics, and technically way below the standard. It is a product to avoid. I mean, I guess, but if it looks interesting to you, go play it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, the most in-depth review I could see was from Destructoid, and they were just complaining about stuff that didn't really matter to me, you know? They were complaining about the story being a little crazy. They were complaining about the censorship of the music, trying to get the T rating. They just wanted it to be grittier and more mature. But the thing about this review that's trashing the game, this review is basically saying that the rhythm parts were okay and the gameplay was okay, but everything else was not good. I mean, to me, the gameplay is the most important part, right? Is it fun or not? That is the question that any review needs to consider. Regardless of anything else, is it fun? It sounded like they had fun, but they hated the story, they hated the censorship, they hated the writing, they hated part of the end. They say you have to replay the entire game again. That's not really true. You have to re-challenge some of the previous villains again. It's not the entire game, it's a few levels at the end, and they feel different. They're not exactly just replaying the same level again. There are differences, it feels different, it is different, and it's only a few levels. And you know what? Nobody did this game justice in their reviews, so what am I saying? It's not a perfect game, but I had fun with it. It's short. You can get your achievements if you're into that kind of thing. You can play multiplayer with a friend. If you like rhythm, if you like Snoop, go check it out for shizzle. Let me know if you played this game or if you end up playing it. Let me know your thoughts. Is it as bad as everybody's saying? Is it as good as I'm saying? How do you feel about it? Anyways, thanks for watching. You take care. I'll see you next time.